Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and today I'm finally back talking about short fiction. It's been a while because I didn't do a favorites video for December and now we're halfway through February before I've done my January one. I didn't prepare a lot for this one because I just want to get it done so I can move on to reading other things and Hugo Awards and stuff like that. So that's not to say that I didn't really enjoy what I read in January. In fact, I read a lot of really great stuff as short fiction in January, but doing this video is stressing me out a little bit. I mostly read stories from Clarkesworld, Uncanny Magazine, and Tor.com in January, and as you know, I'm a huge fan of Uncanny Magazine, and many of my favorites come from there. The first one I have to mention, because it was definitely one of my favorite stories from January, is The Pauper Prince and the Eucalyptus Jinn by Usman Malik. This is a Tor.com story, and it is a novella. I discovered this because a bunch of people were commenting that they were considering nominating for the Hugo Awards, and I was like, how did I miss that? And yes, read this. The quick blurb for the story says it is about a disenchanted young Pakistani professor who grew up and lives in the United States, but is haunted by the magical, mystical tales his grandfather told him of a princess and a Jinn who lived in Lahore when the grandfather was a boy. When his grandfather dies, this Pakistani-American man feels compelled that he must go back to where his grandfather grew up and where he also worked, I think, in Turkey, to discover if the stories he told were true and what happened in his grandfather's life that he never told anybody about, but kind of disguised them as these mystical, fictional tales. And just, this story had everything. It was very well written. It was a beautiful story. It was about family and about being an immigrant and going back to where your family came from, and also magic. It would be pretty simple to say this sort of had an Arabian Nights feel. That's kind of wrong, but it was just a different type of fantasy from a different part of the world. And it blew my mind. I want everybody to read this novella. Next is a novelette by Elizabeth Bear, And the Balance in the Blood, from issue 7 of Uncanny Magazine. I have loved all of the short fiction I've read by Elizabeth Bear from 2015. She's just been knocking out of the park. It's just my type of short fiction, I guess, but this was a particularly good one. It is about a woman named Sister Scholastic. She lives in a monastery or wherever, and her job is to pray for people. There are like these prayer wheels and she keeps them going. She has like a direct line to the gods, and so she has this job assigned to her to pray for people, and of course people can buy more prayers for those who passed on. And this story essentially is about a technological invention that speeds up prayers and thwarting human sacrifice. And Sister Scholastic is just a great character. I was reading this for her. She's an older woman. She is dedicated. She is religious, I guess, but she wants something to make her life and her job easier, and she was really not going to put up with it when somebody tries to mess with her way of life, I guess. It was basically just an entertaining, amusing story with an ending that just made me go, oh yeah, Scholastic is the best. Also from issue 7 of Uncanny Magazine, I want to mention Yoon Ha Lee's Interlingua. This isn't just technically the best story I read, but it made me laugh. The way this story ends just made me laugh out loud, and that is very rare. And it's about this artificial intelligence inside of a ship that its job is to create these games to entertain the people on the ship, but also to get things done, putting something inside of a game so when people play the game, they come up with the answer to your problem. And in this case, they have made first contact with this species that has a very unusual language, and in order to break the language and figure out how to communicate with the species, this artificial intelligence creates a game and then tests it on the people on the ship. And there are some wacky results from this because the game does things to the people, and it keeps iterating the game and changing it and testing it. And then it just ends. So it has a pretty abrupt ending, but the best thing about this is the humor. It reminded me a lot of the culture ships from Ian M. Banks's Culture series, where they are sentient, they have some difficult, amusing, and very eccentric personalities, and that's kind of what the artificial intelligences in these ships are like. You have this, the game ship, which is just trying to do something crazy, and the other ship is just like, can you just be normal or whatever? It made me laugh, and I don't know if everybody will like this or get this one, but I had to mention it just because it's always gonna stick in my mind because of the humor in it. Next is a Tor.com novella, The Devil You Know by KJ Parker. This novella isn't out yet, it's being published in March, and I received an e-galley copy from Tor.com in exchange for an honest review, so thank you to them. This is what I have to say about it. I really liked this one. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think I rated it 4 stars on Goodreads because half stars don't exist there. It's a Faustian tale. I've never read the original Faust, but I recognize some of the elements. A man, an old scholar, making a deal with the devil to prolong his life and give him riches and power so he can do this one last thing. But the twist is that what his actual agenda is remains a mystery. The devil makes this deal with him and thinks, of course, that he's got the upper hand, and then it turns out he really doesn't, and he just gets flip-flopped. I was actually feeling sorry for the devil in the story by the end because he's so confused. He eventually realizes that there is something going on. He doesn't know what it is and he's frantic, but he thinks that he has an ironclad, no loophole contract with this person and it's gonna be okay. And he just gets more and more frantic as he cannot figure out what this guy's end game is until it's basically too late. If you have been interested in reading any of the Tor.com novellas, or if you have been reading them, I would say don't miss this one. Get this one when it comes out in March because it was really good and one of the strongest novellas I've read in their line so far. And my final favorite short fiction piece from January is another novella. This is a Tor.com novella that's free online for people to read. The Waters of Versailles by Kelly Robson. Love this one. It's another one that I picked up because it has had some Hugo buzz and now I understand why. The pitch that I read was basically just toilets, royal French court. This ex-soldier is trying to make his fortune and gain influence and power at the French court by installing plumbing and toilets, which are powered by a water sprite that he captured. And he does not have a good rapport with this water sprite. He has somebody else who can talk to her and kind of get her to do things, but then this man dies and he starts to lose control of the water sprite, which means there are lots of leaky pipes in the palace destroying ceilings, and everybody who wants a toilet all of a sudden can't use one very well. So it's funny but also kind of sad, and I was alternately feeling bad for this guy but also upset with him because he's doing this because he wants power and it's not a very flattering portrayal of him. He really loses his temper in some situations. He just feels selfish. Everything is about him, but also then I started to feel sad for him, kind of bad for him, because everything's just falling down around him and I didn't think that he had a super great life anyway. So it was very good. I really enjoyed this one as well, and of course, if you're reading for Hugo nominations, try this one. That's my favorite short fiction from January. If you've read any of these and you want to talk about them, please comment down below. If you have any other short fiction recommendations for me of things you have read recently and really enjoy, please also let me know. I am trying to read 2016 short fiction now rather than 2015 stuff, but anything you think is really great, let me know. I will try to read it, and I'll be back to talk to you guys again about more short fiction, hopefully with less of a huge gap in the future. So until then, bye.